you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for, previewing the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night games in college football. That is right, 5 straight days of college football on Labor Day weekend. It is one of the great openings of all of college sports with that, or all of sports really, with that 5-day window to start the season. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. There is only one ranked team playing on Thursday night. It is the Utah Utes hosting the Florida Gators. Utah, a 6.5-point favorite in the Betfred Sportsbook. The over-under in this game is 45.5. And this is, of course, a rematch of an absolute thriller in week 1 last year in the Swamp. Florida holds on to win. The defense makes a play in the red zone in the final seconds to seal the victory. Anthony Richardson, not only his breakout game on the college level, I would argue that game helped him get drafted number 3 overall to the Indianapolis Colts, showed that full skill set of everything that he could do. Great game for Anthony Richardson. But now this game returns to Salt Lake City, and it is a true home and home. They are playing in Utah's home stadium, Rice-Eccles Stadium, one of the toughest places in college football to play. First note on this game, the most interesting part, this actually opened with Utah as close to a double-digit favorite, 9.5 points in the Betfred Sportsbook. It's down to 6.5, in large part because we don't know the status of Utah starting quarterback Cam Rising. Cam Rising, multi-year starter in the bowl game last year, in the Rose Bowl, lost to Penn State. He was a guy who got hurt, tore his ACL. He's been out all offseason. And as I record late Monday, maybe we get an update Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If we do, don't yell at me. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. As I record here, we bluntly don't really know if Cam Rising is playing. The last update we had from Kyle Whittingham came in mid-August. Cam Rising had not been cleared by doctors, and it seems to reason that he might not be available on Thursday night. The point spread reflects it because it went from Utah as a 9.5, 10-point favorite down to 6.5. My question with Utah, though, is this. Even if Cam Rising can't play, does the game plan change all that much? Now Cam Rising is a really good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I think we have to assume at this point he's either not playing or is going to be very limited. And so the question becomes, does anything really change? And I'm not sure that it does. It starts with the quarterback. Obviously, if it isn't Cam Rising, it appears as though it will be Bryson Barnes. But remember, this is a guy with game experience. He actually started against Washington State last year, led Utah to a win, and then played significant snaps in the bowl game in the loss to Penn State. Now, would you like to have Cam Rising? Of course. Would you like him at 100%? Absolutely. But there are worse backup quarterbacks that you could have. And beyond that, I don't know that it changes that much of what Utah does. Utah, although they have become a more dynamic passing offense with Cam Rising, they are still a ground and pound, beat you up at the line of scrimmage, play great defense kind of team. Well, what has changed with Utah? Nothing in that regard. Second leading rusher Micah Bernard is back. The offensive line, I thought this was interesting. Kyle Whittingham said in the spring that he believes this offensive line has as much depth as they have ever had since he has been there, which is incredible with the way that they have run the ball. This was a team that last year ranked, in the top 20, top 15 nationally in total rushing, 217 yards per game, put up 230 yards on the ground in the Swamp. And then defensively, it's much the same. 26th nationally in total defense, but they return a lot of really good players. Thought this was interesting. The All Pac-12, first and second team preseason teams. Utah had 5 defensive players on the first and second teams. As best I could tell, nobody else had more than 2 players on those teams. Utah had 5. So a lot of returning talent there. From the Florida perspective, listen, it's no secret, did not go well in year one under Billy Napier. I'm not an anti-Billy Napier guy. I like the way he's recruiting. I think the mess that he had to pick up from Dan Mullen is bigger and more significant than people think. But it was a 6-7 year one. And I would say beyond that, a lot is now on the shoulders of the new starting quarterback, Graham Mertz. Now, Graham Mertz did not have a great career at Wisconsin. We all know that. Billy Napier said all the right things about, we trust him, and maybe he wasn't used correctly at Wisconsin. Paul Chryst told us that they would do things differently if they had to do it over again. But this is still a guy with 56% completion percentage for his career, double-digit interceptions in each of the last 2 years. Good news for Florida, 2 really good running backs back in Etienne and, of course, Montrell Johnson. But the concern is quarterback, I don't know that I trust, and the offensive line is really young. 4 starters were lost in the offseason, either to graduation or the transfer portal. And then defensively, I don't know that it's going to be much better either. This was a bottom of the SEC defense, 12th nationally, 12th in the SEC out of 14 teams. And I don't know that they got significantly better last year, and they lost their top 4 tacklers off of the team from a season ago. Thought it was interesting, right? When you're Florida, when you have what we believe to be great NIL resources, and I know there's conversation around the Jaden Rashada stuff and how good is it really, you'd think that coming off a disappointing season, they would have killed it in the portal because guys would know that they had plenty of playing time to be had at Florida. Now, they got a piece here or there. They got Graham Mertz. They got the Moton kid, the linebacker from Michigan, and they added another interesting piece or two. But I thought it was interesting for a school like Florida that needs depth, needs bodies, needs to fill holes. Sorry, that would caught me off guard there a little bit. I caught myself off guard. That has holes to fill. Why I bring it up, they didn't really sign a ton of marquee guys. It was interesting. The Athletic put out a preview of the top 100 transfers in college football this year. Florida had 0 guys on that list. 24/7 Sports put out the top 100 transfers. Florida had 2 guys on the list, Moton and Banks, a defensive lineman from Louisville. So it's not like they added a ton of transfer portal talent. And now you're asking them to go to Utah on the road at altitude at a place where Utah, the last 2 years since the post-COVID season of 2020, they are 12-0, and only 1 game has been decided by a touchdown or less. That was last year when Caleb Williams walked in and put up 42 points for USC against the Utes. And so because of it, I'll say this. At 6.5, I actually like Utah. I came in thinking I'm going to bet the under. I think that's the best side, But I look at it. Utah's going to be able to run the ball. Utah's going to be able to stop the run and play good defense. They have the better defense, the better run game, the better O-line, and Florida has a turnover-prone quarterback. And so this isn't an anti-Billy Napier thing. By the way, I was dead wrong on this last year. I said, I don't know, Billy Napier week 1. They end up finding a way to win. But I look at this Florida team. I still think they're a year away from being a year away as far as I'm concerned. I just don't know that they have the bodies. Now you got to go to altitude. You got to play a Utah team that basically never loses at home. Give me Utah minus 6.5. That is one of my Betfred best bets. Love that it's under a touchdown. I'm rolling with Utah.